I'm very happy to be here. I'm quite sure many young generation professionals are going to talk to you about supply chain and procurement. I'm not going to go into it because you probably laugh. When I used to do it, we were still in crawling phase. And today it became professional, more efficient, more effective. What I'm going to talk to you about is something is over and above supply chain management, over and above production management, sales management. That is called running your business through the voice of your customer. Because what you're trying to do, whatever it is you're trying to do, you're trying to make money. And the money comes from your customer. I've always defended two rules of the customer service. Rule number one is customer is always right. Rule number two, when the customer is wrong, go back to rule number one. Okay. Now, I have to first learn how this thing works. Okay. This one here? Just go back. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Roman. You see, I need help. Even getting on the stage, somebody has to put me up there. Last night we had delicious Ukrainian vodka. Somebody had to pour it. And now, what you have to do in your companies, if you're a production company or a distribution company or whatever that is, you have to do things, I believe, through the voice of your customer. You have to deliver the things what your customers want, the way they want it, and how much they want, and if possible, in a cheaper price they want. Okay? Because customers have the right to change their minds. Don't ever think that you establish the rules of the game. Customer establishes the rule to the game, and if customer establishes the rule to the game, customer will pay you. So try to keep these things in mind. To be able to understand the strategic process, I have just drawn this up. This could not be any different in your organization. I mean, if you're running business, you have general management, you have supporting processes, and you have processes that support the throughput processes. Now, what I'm going to tell you about the rules, about running a strategic rules, is at the general management level or CEO level. What are the general objectives of your company? You want to increase your customer service, you want to decrease the plant costs, and you want to decrease the inventory holdings. Yeah, that is, I think, every manager, that's what he wants to do. But in that, you have a strategic disconnect, because salesperson goes to the general manager and says, well, I want to sell this, I want to go to the customer. The customer wants, instead of 1 kilo, they want it in 100 grams, and the production is not giving that to me. And the production goes to the general manager and says, well, they want things that I cannot do, and things. So it is completely disconnected. Everything is in silo organizations. Okay, there are silos, production silo, and you have sales silo, and they don't talk to one another. Okay, they talk at the level of the general manager. So, mistake we're making as general managers or CEOs, we measure things by the production. how efficient they are, how effective they are, how cheap they are producing, and how little inventory. But we're making a mistake. The other day I read something somebody has written about the CEO of Apple. He said, you have to have a good inventory levels, you have to hold the planners and buyers responsible for. That's the biggest bullshit that I have ever heard in my life. You have to change, that's what he's doing. You have to change it to having sales and marketing people responsible for inventories, the levels of inventories. You have to tell them, make sure you make sales, don't miss any of the opportunity sales, but keep the inventories low. Don't yo-yo with the production facility, because production managers. I once spent about 3 weeks with a Russian company in Siberia, because the owner was saying, well, I'm doing everything, but I'm not making any money. I said, okay, let's see what's going on in your company. I spoke with the salespeople. Salespeople were saying exactly what I told you a while ago. And production guy, he had 2 red eyes, because even though his house was in the same village as the factory, he was never going home. He was spending all this time in the small office he had in the production unit. And they were still using only 35% of the capacity of the production, because the other 65% was always changeovers, changing from this taste to that taste, or changing from this size to that size, because sales director, she was living in the production. She was telling everybody, well, stop, that's enough for this customer, change to that. So they were changing over. I couldn't believe it. I went immediately the second day to the owner. I said, well, if you're going to do it this way, if you keep on doing it this way, you're not going to make one single ruble. Okay? He has to change things. So you are, if you measure your things from production, or measure your things from the sales, this is very clearly saying that changing your sales strategy is not difficult. But if you want to change your production strategy, it's going to cost you a lot of money, because you have to change lots of things, okay? I have to look there because my good friend Roman here, he's taking some of my slides out, and he's done it with a dartboard. You can comment on that later, Roman. Now, so back to what I said, measure it from the sales. See what they're doing against the budget. See what they're doing against the rolling forecast. See, how about the inventory investment? So capacity, very important in capacity utilization. Don't do it like the Russians I just told you about. The 35% of the capacity was being utilized, until 65% was garbage. This is very important for the general manager to do. So if he wants to make the change and start making money, he has to sit down, make a strategic plan to the future. This is the changes I had. And into that strategic plan, he has to include, I just took here 4 of the disciplines, but I'm quite sure you have many more disciplines like the supply chain and procurement, that sort of stuff in there. You have to put every single discipline in there so that your strategic plan is not in conflict with other disciplines in the organization, and that everybody understands this and everybody supports it. But the good thing we have is, if you do that, you are doing it from the voice of the customer. So you're putting into your strategic plan what the customer wants. You do that with sales operations planning, demand planning, supply planning, and I believe younger professionals will tell you a lot more about those things. But these are the elements that you need to be able to move to future, to a better company. Now, forecasting is one of the elements of MRP2, and it is, if not, it's the most crucial element. Forecasting, there are arguments. Who owns the forecast? Does the salespeople own the forecast, or does the production people own the forecast? Let me tell you, salespeople own the forecast. They have to bring into the company a reliable forecast. They have to bring into the company a forecast that reflects the entire requirement. It has to be realistic, and it has to be reviewed very frequently. You have to agree within the organization, I would say start with every 2 weeks. If it is working, then you can move it up to one month, every 1 month. You have to make a rolling forecast, which gives you the first 3 months, depending on your organization and your production cycles and things like that. First 3 months, almost firm orders, and everything beyond that, forecast with a certainty or forecast with a percentage of reliability. Now, you have to, in this total process, build good relationships with your beginning of your supply chain, your suppliers, and end of your supply chain, your customers. Now, when you build good relationship with your suppliers, you will go into co-makership. Okay, let them come into your plant. Let them see how you're doing things, why you're doing it that way. Okay, you will start reducing costs. When I say that, I don't mean to push inventories into their warehouse. Okay, that will definitely disturb your relationship. If your customer makes a change, it's not because your supplier wants that, it's because your customer wanted that. So don't push that into your supplier's warehouse. And it will increase, at the end of the day, increase your shareholders' value and the return of investment. In the relationship with your customers and suppliers, I have heard other speakers talk about it. Most important thing is the trust factor. You have to trust them, they have to trust you. Okay? They're telling me that my time is running up, so I'll quickly go through the same thing goes also with your customers. You have to trust them, they have to trust you. Do not let your customers yo-yo with your organization. Tell your customers what your possibilities are, what you can do and what you cannot do. And if your salesperson is telling different things to your customers, which also I have very many times noticed in my career, then you are having a very bad relationship at the end of the day, also with your customer. Because I was once selling software, and then another sales colleague, he was just saying, well, don't worry about it. Software can do this and do that. And then it comes day, customer says, well, it doesn't do what you told me it's doing. What happens? You end up in the court. So you have to tell them what you can do. And plus, don't forget, this. I was telling somebody last night, and I said, well, Indira Gandhi is the man I follow. You cannot shake hands when you hold your hand like this. You have to change that. You have to shake hands with an open hand. And do it with your suppliers, do it with your customers. Let them work together and when you make your rolling forecast, give a copy of them to your suppliers and say, well, this is what's going to happen in 3 months' time, that's going to happen in 4 months' time, or whatever. You work together. This is a very simple thing. That's what you're there for. You have to fulfill the need of the altering demand without ineffective use of your company, of your production unit. Okay? Now, I think, how many? 5 minutes. There you go. Now, what do we require in this? We require, to do that, you have to change as the general manager, or you have to change the understanding, you have to change the thought process, you have to change the attitude. Customer's always right. Commitment. Do it regardless. Faith. It will work. Patience. Do it right. And then it will go into continuous improvement. Customer service culture is the most important thing you can teach into your organization and make sure that things happen the way you want them to happen. If you're going to, as the CEO or the managing director, sit in your office and tell your production manager, say, well, you know what, I want you to go into the plant and make this happen. It will not work. It will not work. Don't try it. It will not work. You have to do it yourself. Get somebody else to make the phone calls to Republican Party or whoever you're calling with every day. They can do it. You go into the plant, you talk with people, you go to the smallest man and tell him, this is what I want. And ask him how we can do it. Okay? You have to change your management style. Okay? Flatten your organization. If you have too many layers between yourself and the last man in the production facility, it won't work. You have to flatten the organization so that smallest man can come up to you and say, well, boss, if we do it this way, it'll be better for us. You have to empower them. You have to allow them to talk to the customers directly, not through you, or not through the salesperson, or not through production manager. If you're satisfying a customer, smallest man should be able to talk directly with the customer and ask the customer, what do you want? And tell the customer, we can do it or we can't do it. You have to redistribute work. When I was in my younger ages, I was a supervisor of planning of a big nutritional company. And the first thing the big boss said, you know what, I want you to, as per tomorrow, stop doing that. I want you to go into the production and become a production supervisor. I said, God almighty, I've never done that before. When am I supposed to do that? But I listened to him, and I went there, and I learned things. I brought in some new ideas, and I brought in innovation, just like the man from the production who came and sat in my chair. He also brought new things into the planning. So, redistribute work. Fight the traditional thinking. Later on with the lunch break, I will show you a book. I appreciate you if you buy it or go to the internet and see some of its shows. I'm talking about Dr. Robert Kriegel. I met him in Montreal in 1991 in a conference where I was also speaking. And ever since then, I've been watching his videos very regularly. He has changed the traditional fighting, traditional thinking. He fought that. And that's what you have to do. And you have to compress time, lead times, throughput times, QA release. For example, we were in the nutritional factory, we were producing it, we had to ship it after 2 weeks of microbiological testing. We found a way of shipping it 1 week after. Microorganisms don't grow in 1 week. But we were so sure of our product, we put it on the boat, we shipped it to Taiwan. One time it went wrong, and we had to offload that container in Hong Kong. But one time in 5 years' time. So QA release times are very important. You have to see how you can change them. Unreleased shipments and single minute of exchange of die. Great man. To improve, you have to change. To be perfect, you have to change more often. This will all change your customer service to customer satisfaction, ultimately customer delight. Okay? It will increase your level with adding costs, get you into loop of continuous improvement. A world-class company is a place where people like to work. And then to be able to become a world-class company, you have to do what we just talked about. Don't forget, this is your competition. It's out there, it's much bigger than you are, unless you're Henry Ford from 1937. I thank you very much. In a short time that I was given, I hope that I could tell you how important it is for you to change your traditional way of thinking, if you want to make money, of course. If you don't want to make money, I don't know what you're doing here. But if you make more money, you have to change. And the way to change is to do it yourself, and don't delegate that. Do not tell your sales manager, because she or he is not going to make the change, just like the Russian company I worked for in Siberia. She said, no, we were doing everything perfect. We're not going to change it. But the production manager he had only red eyes like rabbit. He couldn't sleep. Thank you very much.